Hey everyone, it's Kristen from k.becca, and in this video, I'll show you how to do a basic dirty pour acrylic pour painting. When I first came across the term dirty pour, I was sort of like, huh? But it doesn't involve dirt or anything like that. I actually prefer making acrylic pour paintings with this method, and I'll show you how easy it is to do. So I already have my work area set up, and I'm just finishing up with mixing all of the paints that I'm using with the pouring medium. In this case, the pouring medium is a 50-50 mixture of Elmer's glue and water, and I mix about a tablespoon or so of the paint with about the same amount of pouring medium, enough that the paint becomes the consistency of buttermilk. And I usually use about double the amount of white paint since I like a lot of white in my paintings. You want to see how I make my pouring medium, as well as a step-by-step walkthrough of all the tools and supplies that I use for the acrylic pour paintings? Check out the video at the link that should be popping up now. I'm using a mix of different brands of craft paints for this project. I've got Martha Stewart Wedding Cake for the white paint, and I've mixed together about twice the amount of white paint as the rest of the colors of paint. This seafoamy green color is Martha Stewart Beach Glass. The dark teal color is Folk Art Aqua paint mixed with black paint to darken the color. And I'm also using a metallic paint, Champagne Gold from Decoart. I'm using an 8x10 canvas art panel for this project, and I raised it off my work surface with 4 small plastic shot glasses that I found at the dollar store. You could also use empty yogurt containers, plastic cat food containers, or even a small box centered underneath for this. Anything that raises your canvas off the surface enough to allow the paint to run off the edges after you pour it. Sometimes when you mix paints with the pouring medium, the mix will get bubbles. I have that going on in a few of the colors that I'm using, and to get rid of those bubbles, I have a mister here that's filled with 91% isopropyl rubbing alcohol, and I'll just spritz a little bit of that into the paint and pouring medium mixture to get rid of the bubbles. After I spritz it once, I'll stir the paint around a little bit to incorporate the alcohol, and then if I see more bubbles, I'll give it another spray and repeat the process as needed. I'm noticing that the metallic paint that I'm using is actually more glittery. You can see that little swirl of glitter as I'm stirring it after spritzing it with the rubbing alcohol. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this paint when it's poured. After I'm finished debubbling all of my paints, we're ready for the pour. Instead of pouring each paint color onto the canvas panel separately like I did in a previous video, we're going to do a dirty pour. So a dirty pour is when you pour all of your paint colors into one cup before pouring them onto your canvas. It's that simple. You could pour all of your paints into a clean cup, but I usually just choose one of the colors and pour the rest of the colors into it. This time I'll pour all of the colors into the cup that has the Martha Stewart Beach Glass paint, and I always keep a little bit of paint in the other cups in case I need to manually add some color to the canvas in specific places after I pour. The next step is optional. Sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't. After the different paint colors have been poured into one cup, you can take your wood craft stick or whatever you stir your paint with, dip it into the cup until it's touching the bottom, then draw it across the cup. I'll do this twice, and I lifted it out this time before drawing it across again. I never do this more than twice because I don't want that paint to mix too much. Sometimes I only do it once, and sometimes I skip it completely. It's totally up to you whether you do this or not, or how many times you do it. Next, I'll flip my canvas panel over onto the top of the cup, with the cup centered pretty well, and then I'll flip both the canvas panel and the cup over and set them down. I like to give the paint in the cup a little bit of time to run down from the inside of the cup onto the canvas, probably about 15 or 20 seconds. Then I'll give the bottom of the cup a little tap for good measure, and I'll lift the cup up. Now I'll start to tip the canvas panel around so the paint begins to move around more. I'm seeing a lot of the dark teal and beach glass colors, but I want some more white going on, so I'll get the white paint cup and pour a little bit of the paint that I held back earlier onto part of the panel. I like how that's brightening up the painting. Next, I want to see a little bit more of that metallic gold paint, so I'll drop a little bit of that onto the panel too. I'll continue tipping the panel around to move the paint around, and I'll add additional paint manually here and there where I think the painting needs it. If you're a purist, you might not want to add any paint manually after you do the pour. It's really up to you. There are as many ways that you can do this as there are people who are making pour paintings. This is about having fun, experimenting, and being creative, and you're the one in charge of the process. Several minutes later, when I'm happy with how my painting looks, I'll set it down onto the plastic shot glasses and allow it to dry completely. That gold metallic paint ended up being pretty subtle as far as color goes, but after the painting dried, you could see that the metallic paint added a nice, subtle shimmer to much of the painting. It usually takes about 24 to 36 hours to completely dry with these canvas panels and the amount of paint that I typically use for the paintings. As the paint dries, it'll continue to move around a bit more, so it's always a fun surprise when I come in to see it after it's completely dry. You can find a full list of supplies used in this video in the description area below or in the area below the video if you're watching on k.becca.com. I hope that you found this video to be helpful, and if you'd like to see more acrylic pour painting videos, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll tune in again soon.